Okay, so I'm here at the Woodrow Thompson's house on the Battle of Gettysburg on July 5th, 2018. This is my Walkaway video. 155 years ago this week, there was a massive battle here at Gettysburg, and I am one who really likes American history, and I give amateur tours here occasionally. I thought it would be a great idea to do my Walkaway video here. And so for the next few minutes, I'm going to take you to the battlefield on a sort of a tour, but also more of a narrative of where I was and where I came from being a liberal Democrat on my way to walking away. So at this house here, this was actually Lee's headquarters on the night of July 1st. And he commanded it for the rest of the battle. I chose this location because we're going to first start on the Confederate side and work our way around the battlefield to the northern side. And the Confederate side were mostly Democrats. I mean, let's just face it. And I just feel that a good representation of where I came from on the 3 days. So let's check it out and let's take a look. This is where we're at. So here we are right now, we're on Seminary Ridge, which is the battle line of the Confederacy on the second and third day of the battle. Seminary is appropriate to me because this ridge line is named after the Lutheran Seminary, which is right up here to the northeast. And one thing that I knew early on was that my Christian worldview was in direct opposition to the liberal worldview that I was being taught. I was very actively involved in the Democrat Party in the sense that I voted, in the sense that I actually helped out with the Marion Barry post-crack campaign in the late 80s. Voted for Bill Clinton twice. I even voted for Al Gore. And I was one of these people who were really upset when Bush won. I bought into all that liberal socialist stuff. I went to see speakers all over the place, had all the albums and tapes of speakers of that day, spewing. Some of it was informative, but a lot of it was vitriol hatred toward the United States. For is that my Christian worldview was not in relationship with what I was listening to and believing. So I was out of balance, and I didn't feel like things made sense because people within my circle all agreed about being pro-black, but none of them really agreed on just about anything in terms of implementation, in terms of their own personal worldview, and so nothing made sense. I knew the Bible was true, but these things were counter to that. And so as we go forward on this, because this battlefield, if you look at it from a map, is from the left, where we are now, to the right. And as we go around and make that transition on the battlefield, that will also correspond to my change in my story. Okay, so right now we're standing at Little Round Top on the eastern front, eastern slope of this particular fight. There are two battles on this particular mountainside, one on this side and one on the other side, and I will touch on that in a second. But there's an intense battle happening here between William C. Oates' 15th Alabama and Lawrence Chamberlain's 20th Maine. It's a very popular spot. The Killer Angels was a book by a gentleman by the name of Shahara, and it was popularized in the movie Gettysburg that came out in 1993. So I chose this battle site because once I determined that I was going to go the conservative route, there was an intense battle of the mind and the spirit for control of my thought process and my actions and my activism going forward. For me, it began with 9/11. Once we were attacked, I was in the notion that America, when we were attacked on our own soil, we should defend ourselves. My Democrat buddies, as well as the pundits and media and so forth, were taking the position that it was America's fault, it was America's policies, and so forth. I took extreme exception to that, and so I was basically saying, you know what, the only people that are talking about defending this country are the Republicans. So, out of desperation and wanting to do something and take action, I literally went to the George W. Bush website and looked over my shoulder as I clicked enter. That's how brainwashed I was. And in doing so, I signed up for a volunteer group that was close to my area in Greensboro, and then I took that particular invite and I showed up at a meetup, and there I met several conservatives, and my journey to conservatism started there. And so the point is that it took an extreme catastrophe for me to move from the Democratic plantation to a more conservative base, ultimately to the Republican Party. And so here on the eastern slope of Little Round Top, right behind me, is the actual marker where the 20th Maine's center line position bent backwards up the slope to prevent William C. Oates' 15th Alabama from overrunning the position and sweeping behind them and taking the hill, which ultimately would have caused the North probably to lose the battle. So what ended up happening was, once they ran out of ammunition, William C. Oates was coming up that slope, tired up the hill because they just made a forced march over a big round top. Had very little water, they were dehydrated. Both sides were basically out of ammunition and throwing rocks at each other. But the 15th Alabama were making one serious charge coming up the hill. And so Chamberlain did the only thing he could do. He bent his line back and rotated it clockwise down the hill in a sweeping motion, and in doing so, turned the tide of that battle and got him the Congressional Medal of Honor. On the opposite side of the slope here, we have the western slope, which we had a gentleman by the name of Patty O'Rourke. He also defended this position using a bayonet charge, but in his case, he died on that hill. But his bayonet charge also secured this hill. So this here is a pivotal point in the battlefield. And for me, 9/11 was a pivotal point in my life because it let me see once and for all whose side really cared for America. It became starkly obvious. And so with that, we'll move on to the next spot. Okay, so we're going to wrap this video up, my story, at one of my most favorite spots on the battlefield. It's in the center of the Union line on the second day and third day. It's the Seminary Ridge, which is opposite of where we were before on Seminary Ridge, on the Confederate side. And we're standing right here at the 1st Minnesota Monument. This monument honors the 1st Minnesota Regiment that plugged a hole toward the end of the battle on the second day. 2nd Corps General Hancock needed time because they were going to be overrun here in the middle. There's a big gap coming through this area. He only had 272 members of this 1st Minnesota available, going against literally thousands of Confederates. He said, my God, it is all the men that I have to work with here. And he did. He needed to buy time. So he essentially told the 1st Minnesota to charge into the Confederates. Take their flags, stall them, whatever. Only 47 of the 272 made it back. And to me, that symbolizes a call to action in my story. It's one thing to go from liberal to conservative or walk away from the Democrat Party. But at some point we got to take action despite the difficulties. And I think I've been on this walk for a long time now, and it's good to see many other people jumping on. You don't have to be pro-Trump or Republican, but just understanding that the Democrats are using class warfare and dividing people so that they can get the votes, so they can get the power, and basically brushing them aside. And that's what this Walkaway movement is all about. So as I wrap this video up, I want you to know I'm happy for everyone who's doing this, and I'm excited about the future. I feel if this movement can be successful and strip away the 25% of the Democrats who are extremely proud to be Americans. A poll just came out by Gallup saying that only 25% of liberals thought that they were extremely proud to be American. Well, that 25% of those liberals are the low-hanging fruit that we can address and inform and educate so that they can come over away from the Democrat Party, and wherever they want to go, it's their own choice. But the Democrats can't keep exploiting these groups. And so thank you for listening.